Hello, welcome to the Mayor's Brief. Obviously, I'm not Mayor Sandy Roberson. He's not able to do the Mayor's Brief this week, so I'm City Councilman Lige Daughtridge representing Ward 5, and we had a City Council meeting this past Monday, which was January the 23rd. It was really not much went on, just some basic administrative things happened, such as approving our minutes from August 15th, Committee of the Whole, and October 24th. We did some ordinances and amendments regarding the CARES Act and some general fund funding pieces that we approved. And then in addition, I guess the biggest thing we did was consider the bids for contract line labor for $200,000 in addition to the custodial services for the City of Rocky Mount, and awarded that to Royal Quality Maintenance for $942,000, almost $943,000. So they were the biggest things we did, and I would recommend everybody, if you're interested, go to the city webpage and look over that. Soon after, we continued our Committee of the Whole meeting, or didn't continue. We called it a special called meeting because Chief Hassel went over the crime report and did a very good job with that. And then we Peter Varney went over the travel policy for the mayor and council. But what I really wanted to do today was go over our utility statements, our utility bills. Too often we hear complaints from citizens regarding the amount that they pay for their utilities, and rightfully so. It's a big piece of everybody's budget, and so I think it's worthy of spending a little bit of time. The City of Rocky Mount, we offer energy resources, as you can see through this screenshot from our city webpage. We do electric, natural gas, water, wastewater, stormwater, and the director of energy resources is Chris Beschler. He handles the electric and natural gas. And specifically today, I'm going to go over the electric. The City of Rocky Mount has been in the electric business for a long time, and we're part of an organization called NCEMPA. And NCEMPA was, I think, started back in '78, might have been a little sooner, but we invested in some nuclear technology. And then soon after we did that, 3 Mile Island had an incident and caused everything to skyrocket in cost. And therefore, the City of Rocky Mount, along with 32 other cities within the city of North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, we all had exceptionally high utility rates. But back in 2014, 2015, we were able to sell our assets, which was, as you can see here, was $1.25 billion, was purchased by Duke, purchased NCEMPA's ownership. Now, NCEMPA was able to keep, each city was able to keep, what we have, such as our trucks and our poles, but it was just our investment that we had in the power plants, our ownership interest, such as in the Brunswick County nuclear power plant, the Mayo plant in Person County, and the Roxborough plant, and also in Person County, and the Harris nuclear plant in Wake County. We sold everything that we had invested in that, which helped us reduce our rates tremendously. And then Duke Energy serves as our wholesale. We buy our electricity from Duke from wholesale rates. And in NCEMPA, which I'm the representative for the City of Rocky Mount on NCEMPA, they handle everything for the 32 cities and towns in Eastern North Carolina, and they pay the wholesale, and then we reimburse them. One thing that I want to show you here, if you can look on the screen right here, this is something that I created. It's a spreadsheet showing what utility rates would have been before and the buyout, and then what they are currently. So if you had 1,000 kilowatts usage in a month, your previous bill would have been $145.54. Now your bill would be $123.08. So you would have a savings just a dollar amount of about $22.46. But if you do that over 12 months, you're saving a considerable amount of money, which you're saving about 15%. So what I really want to do is show everyone, this is a copy of my actual utility bill that I received in December of 2022 for my home. And a lot of what people do is they go right here and they say $416.16 for your power bill, which is mistaken because within our utility statement, citizens and residents are charged not only for, they're charged for electric, gas, refuse, which is trash, wastewater, stormwater, water, and if you make a donation to the WARM program, all that is encompassed in the utility statement. So you can see right here, my total bill was $416.16, but my electric bill was only $275.49. So if you want to look at the usage down here, really what you need to look at is right here at my house, we use 2,570 kilowatt hours of our units of kilowatts, which cost $275. So I really want to stress with everyone that don't just take your total bill. Please go over here and look what your electric and what you spend on gas. So that was the big takeaway I want people to have right now. But also, and this is my work. This is not the City of Rocky Mount. It's not official. But I do want to show what we are compared to neighboring cities such as Wilson, Fayetteville, what Duke Energy charges, Greenville Utility, Kinston, New Bern, Halifax, Dominion, and Edgecombe Martin. So on my bill, I used 2,570 units of kilowatt of power. So you can see when I do this, again, this equals what we had, $275.49. So Wilson is 1% less based on my usage at my house than Rocky Mount, or they're $4 less than we are. Fayetteville, you can go across here and see. One thing that I think is interesting, we are 14%, Rocky Mount is 14% less than Duke, or $42.16 based on the example that I'm providing here. We're also 14% less than Kinston. We're 11% less than New Bern, 22% less than Halifax. And you can see all these across here. And I can go through and change this for any amount of usage and go to 1,000 kilowatts, the unit. And then you can see the difference here. One of our big things that we have that really separates us, our facility charge is $26, where in Wilson it's $15 and in Fayetteville it's $20. But then if you look at our rates that we charge per kilowatt hour, we have a rate that's in line with everyone else, and in many cases cheaper than our neighboring cities or competitors. So I want to make it clear, because a lot of people say that we have some of the highest rates. Now, we're not the cheapest out there, but we're not the most expensive. Again, Wilson is just a little bit less. Fayetteville is 5% less. So, but we are a whole lot less than Duke, Kinston, New Bern, Halifax, and Edgecombe Martin. We're 21% less with Edgecombe Martin. So this is what I wanted to spend the time today, is just going over this and to reiterate and to go back and remind everybody, please do not take this total on your utility bill and think that's your whole thing, because you're also paying for trash and recycling and your electric and your gas. So I hope this helps everyone understand. I know it's complicated, and I may not have done the best job of explaining, but I think it's worthy of trying to do this. And if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. And I hope everyone, again, takes away how we are compared to our neighbors. And I appreciate the time. And again, if I can do anything to help you, please give me a call. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Murphy, for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know that this Congress that has just started has been off to a rather interesting start, and I'd love to hear your commentary on it. I'm glad that we finally have a speaker. So you got to walk me through that process just a little bit, because I know everybody's dying to hear about it.
Yeah. Well, the Speaker of the House, this is a little different. Most folks don't understand this, is the Speaker of the entire House, both majority and minority parties. And so there's always a vote, and that vote has to occur really before people are sworn in, because they have to have a leader. And, there's a lot of things. The great term, which you don't normally hear ever unless you're in public, is to hear how the, quote, sausage is made. There are a lot of these discussions that occur all the time. So what people saw on the television last week, the process itself occurs all the time. Now, the grandstanding and all the other stuff, a lot of folks, sadly enough, both Republican and Democrats, and sometimes Republicans do even more of a job of this, of grandstanding to the camera. A lot of that was grandstanding to the camera. The most substantive differences in our, quote, rules package, how we run Congress, had already been decided a month before. And infinite majority of the Republican caucus wanted these things. It's actually taken the power away from a centralized speaker's office, which is what Speaker Pelosi did. She brought all the power in her and put it in. And what we did is we put it back to the committees, back to the members. That's where it should be. And there were just a few stickling points that really, honestly, in the big scheme of things, were very, very inconsequential. Just, sadly enough, after a week, tensions go up. I reminded our members that what happens when a new pope is elected is all the College of Cardinals, all they do is they get locked in the Sistine Chapel. They're given bread and water, and they have their little room. They vote once a day, and that's it. So the good thing is, once we get a speaker, then we can name committee chairs, and then we can fill out committees, and then we can start doing the work to really, in my opinion, undo some of the unmitigated, self-inflicted disasters that have happened over the last 2 years. And so I feel like we've got a good future moving forward.
Now, look, I know that you've been a doctor for many, many, many years, a stellar career in that profession. You lived in East North Carolina. You certainly understand the culture of Eastern North Carolina and what that means economically. And so I think that makes you well suited to be on Ways and Means, particularly given the healthcare considerations that we have in this particular region, and considering some of the disparities that we have in terms of economic development and opportunities in our area. So if you would just talk a little bit about what you see is happening that maybe of some ray of hope for some of us in this part of the world that haven't always experienced the same wave that many of the metropolitan areas have.
Mm-hmm. You look at Eastern North Carolina, you look at kind of 95, east of 95, and you look at what are the main economic drivers. Healthcare is a big one. With the big medical center in Greenville, and then all the other hospitals there in Rocky Mount, everywhere, every small town, if you go back and look at small towns, oftentimes it's the biggest employer. So healthcare will always be a huge economic driver. Second is the military. We have Camp Lejeune, we have Seymour Johnson just in Wayne County, we've got Cherry Point in Craven County, we have the Coast Guard station up in Elizabeth City. Those are big, not only economic drivers, but they're also places where people retire to. If they've served in that area, it's very important. They love it, and they want to come back. In fact, the 3rd District has the 6th most veterans of any district in the country. So our military is a huge economic driver. Third, and really I should have probably put that one at the top, is agriculture. We have so much. We're actually, the 3rd District will be the number 2 hog producing district in the country. We have row crops, we have chicken, poultry, turkeys, those type of things, which are crucial not only for our economy, but really to feed the world, feed our country. We export so many poultry, so much hog production to other countries, China especially, and some of the other things. So that is critical. And then finally, which is a big deal, especially for the coast, is tourism. Tourism is it's a $1 billion plus year industry every year. And as we've seen really in the last year and a half, so many people have migrated to Eastern North Carolina and moved there. And you know, the counts are that since the last election, over 75,000 people have moved to Eastern North Carolina. That's a lot of people. And so a lot of people vacation, especially in the mid-Atlantic, but some people from all across the country come and come and vacation in Eastern North Carolina. It's really now becoming almost a year-round destination. So those are the four big economic drivers for Eastern North Carolina. The healthcare is not going to go away. We're always going to need that. I'm working on solvency of Medicare because the money in the Medicare Trust Fund is running out. We actually, people, have to think about this. In 1965, when Medicare was first put into effect, the average life expectancy was 70 years. And we had a lot of younger people that were paying into this system. So it's kind of a pyramid where the older individuals over age 65 were just fewer. Now that pyramid is absolutely inverted, where we have 2 or 3 or 4% of individuals living over 90. And health expectancy is now not 70, excuse me, but closer to 80. And how do we pay for that, given the fact that now the pyramid's flipped and we have fewer people paying into it and many, many more people getting benefits? It's a major challenge that we're going forward.
Look, so let's talk about Medicare. You hit on something there. It is inverted. It is a challenge. And it is something that once you give a social benefit, it's very, very, very difficult to take it away. And a lot of people are dependent on it. So what are some of the thoughts that you have, and how do we retool it in a way that it becomes more sustainable? Because that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and the same is true for Social Security for that matter.
Well, I mean, there's only a limited pocket of money. And,
right.
The debt is a real thing. I have some of my members on the other side of the aisle that don't think the debt is a real thing. The debt now, we're paying on the debt more than our GDP, or close to, more than our gross domestic product. The numbers just don't work that way. At lunchtime, we had an individual come from the Congressional Budget Office, and we talked a lot about this. We're by all intents and purposes heading into a recession. Housing starts, the housing market has plummeted because interest rates have gone up. Interest rates have gone up because of inflation. Inflation has occurred because of three things. One, there was pent-up demand after the pandemic. People understand that completely. Number two, after the pandemic, a lot of places got shut down. And so instead of producing 100 widgets a day, they only produce 40 widgets a day. And so when people are chasing goods and they're fewer in quantity, prices go up. And then finally, and I'll just say this in a totally, really objective manner, when you have out of control spending, the likes at which we have seen the last 2 years by the Biden administration, when you start throwing more and more money into a system that is competing for prices, what is going to happen? Prices are going to go up. And so what happens with that? It's inflationary. And so the Federal Reserve, and I had the chairman of the Richmond branch, one of the 12 board members in the office about a month and a half ago. He and I talked about an hour about these issues. When you're chasing inflation and the Fed is trying to get it under control, their main tool is to raise interest rates. And what does that do? First, it affects the housing market first, because people just can't afford when their housing rate is 7 3/4. You and I remember the days of 17 and 18%, which absolutely obliterated any growth. And so it's trying to reel back the out of control spending so that inflationary pressures will go down, and then they can start cutting back down interest rates, make housing more affordable, and get our economy going back. But to be frank and honest with you, Mayor, it's going to be a year or two before any of that happens. And so there's still, from the quote Inflation Reduction Act, which was an absolute misnomer for money being poured into the likes of climate change stuff, and some of the other initiatives that by the Biden administration, we're chasing our tail doing it. And it may feel good to say, oh, well, yes, we have all these benefits, but we really don't have them. Going back to Medicare is an inverted pyramid. Again, back in 1965, the average age life expectancy was 70 years old. And now, 50 years later, we have to revisit what that life expectancy what that means for our life expectancy to go up into the high 70s, if not 80s. And we're probably going to have to push the ages of eligibility up a little bit. You know, we're growing older, but we're healthier when we're 65 than we were in 1965. So pushing those ages up is going to probably be the first step. Now, it's not going to be immediate. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It'll be a gradual thing, but that's the only way that we can actually make the numbers work. That's one thing. And some of the other stuff about benefits and who gets paid this, that, and the other thing are important. We're facing a massive doctor shortage, especially surgeons, coming up as we're moving forward, and how to keep those people from retiring and have them stay online and deal with all these other things. This is a major challenging time, and it takes people who are here for the right reasons, working hard to help us navigate our way through this.
You know, you mentioned a great point, and that's that people are getting older and they're healthier. I got to tell you, some of the best employees that we've had and continue to have are between the ages of 60 and 75. I mean, I got to tell you, committed, want to work. Medicare actually gets in the way sometimes of that, because I can't make but so much money. And that's a real travesty. And most of these folks are wanting to work. I mean, they're excited about it. And I think that that's probably a reasonable trade-off. I don't think folks are thinking of it in those actuarial terms that you really have broken down in a very, very easy way to understand, but that's really the reality of it.
Yeah. If we have older folks that are over 65, 70 that want to work, there should be absolutely no restrictions on them being able to do it. Absolutely none. They want to work. We need the workers, and they're paying taxes. Absolutely no restrictions whatsoever.
They're feeding into the system. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Probably my wife would lock me out. I had a fellow member said his wife told him that she married him for life, but not for lunch. So in other words, so he's got to go out and work during the day. And it just was pretty funny. But I mean, you know, what are you going to do? Sit back in a rocking chair if you're able to work. Now, again, as we get older, sometimes more infirmities set in, and those are understandable. But, you know, it gives meaning to life to get up in the morning to be able to go up and go to work.
Well, I can say this. I've tried retirement a couple of times, and I failed at it miserably because it's just not but so many rounds of golf you can play, not but so many fish you can catch, not but so much you can do before it has no meaning. And the truth is, I think we were all designed and built to bring to the table, you know, things, you know, our gifts and our skills, and to try to better those things around us. And so I failed at it. So many people around me have failed at it. So I guess that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But look, tell us a little bit about what your personal goals are here in Congress in this particular term, and how can we help you?
Well, I appreciate that. So being on Ways and Means, oftentimes a lot of our personal goals come from committee work. Obviously, working on Medicare and taxes and trade is going to be a big thing. But I've also had two kind of side efforts, if you will, which are not going to go away. Number one is free speech. Our campuses now, and I was on the board of trustees of Davidson College, and I saw that battle on the college campuses to try to have free speech. And sadly enough, it is unbelievable to me that where I went to school, we always discussed things openly, and there was not this animosity or anger if somebody had a differing of opinion. But absolutely, the left's taken over college campuses to the point now, one recent poll said that up to 25% of students said on campus it was okay to shout someone down if you disagreed with them. This is absolutely wrong. And, you know, this is where our college campuses need to be bastions where free speech, where great ideas are exchanged. You should be taught how to think, not what to think. So I've been working a lot on free speech issues. Another thing is really, which is more germane really to Eastern North Carolina, we've now had two annual sessions of something called the Water Summit, where we're trying to look at Eastern North Carolina, bring together members in the legislature, not only on the state level, but the federal level, bring together academics, bring together state and federal agencies to try to look at North Carolina's problems specifically on how do we deal with flooding? How do we deal with beach erosion? How do we deal, if there is going to be long-term, with sea level rise? How do we do all those things? It's really an academic pursuit, but it doesn't stop at the academics. It actually turns into legislative initiatives and actually turns into plans for that matter. So, and then also, and I'll just end with this, it's also critically important to support our veterans, those people who have put their name on the dotted line to serve our country. I look at that honestly as a two-way compact. They put their name on the dotted line. They sacrifice, their families sacrifice to serve our country, and sometimes they pay the ultimate sacrifice. But once they've once they've turned their boots in and done those other things, it's up to us. I think it turns upon us. It's incumbent upon us to fill our part of the contract, and that's taking care of our veterans. I've had a lot to work to do with those who've had traumatic brain injury, PTSD. Those have been things I worked on in the State House and I continue to work on here in Congress. That, and then again, I'll actually conclude with the opioid epidemic, which was near and dear to my heart when I was in the State House. Last year we lost 107,000 individuals in the country to opioid overdoses, and I fear it's going to be much worse this year. Our southern border has become a gateway for drugs. The drug cartels own our southern border, and this nonsense, absolute nonsense, needs to stop. So a lot of things to work on here in Congress.
Well, look, thank you for doing it. Now, how can we help you in that whole process? I mean, other than vote for you, and obviously campaign contributions help, but what other kind of support can we provide?
Well, those things are not, one of the job that I hate the most is asking people for money, but it's part of the process. You have to run elections, you have to run campaigns, and if you find a person, elected official, State House, State Senate, Congress, Senate, that you believe in, who carries your values, I think it's incumbent upon you to support that person so that your values are then carried forward. The way you think and the way you deal with issues is supported then in the next step in Congress. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to actually do something about it. And if you have good individuals who are willing to come out of their daily lives, I still love being a doctor. I still try to take care of patients 2 or 3 days a month. But if you have good individuals who are willing to come out of their daily lives and carry your wishes forward, I think it means supporting them. So prayers are always, always, always welcome. This is not an easy job, as you well know.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you, Dr. Murphy. I appreciate your time and your effort taking it out of your busy day as you're in Congress. Let us know anything we can do to help you, and thank you for what you're doing for us and our country.
Great. Thank you so much. God bless, Mayor. You take care.